And good evening tonight with Ask a Witch. This is midnight on the East Coast, full moon, and a howling northeaster is coming against the East Coast of the United States. And we're all out here today. And basically, I've been asked to do Ask a Witch, and I'm Ed Correll, the Right Reverend Ed Correll of the Correllian tradition, and so I'm going to be starting up. So we're going to do it. As you can see, my symbol. Everybody asks me about my symbol. Well, I'm a paladin, and this is basically my ideology of philosophy. I am a pagan and a protector, and I try to do things that are out there. And so I'm very strongly into it. So the first question I've gotten is a very simple one. Can a man be a witch? Can a man be a witch? Well, yes, of course a man can be a witch. A witch means the wise, or wicke. And so it means to be a wise, to try to be wise. That's the essential point of being a witch, is to be wise, to try to gain wisdom, to be bold, to be silent, to be brave. These are the ideas that we have. And these are very strong personal ideas. And this doesn't have a gender. This does not have a aspect to it. It is what we are and what we want to be and what we love. And so to be a witch is to be wise and to be bold, to be brave, to be silent when it is necessary, to hold our secrets. And that is the aspect. That's not a male or female thing. Now, the secondary thing is warlock. And I'm a big believer on... Hi, Liz, I'm glad to see you. And so on the warlock, now there's a big debate over the Christian version of it and what I feel is a much more shamanic or Mongolian version, which meant warlocks as guardian witches. Kind of this idea of the guardian, or not necessarily a male or female, but a guardian witch, a warrior witch, a witch who used their magic, and often males, in the term of protection. There's a really powerful aspect, just like the word shaman may have come from Mongolian, so may have the word warlock. There's some actual evidence starting to show up on this. And I'm surprised. So there are people who are trying to claim warlock, not as a necessarily purely male, but definitely as a male counterpart to this sort of idea. And I'm okay with that. And the Correllian tradition a number of years ago agreed that we would accept men who wanted to call themselves warlocks as well. Why should we force an identity? So males want to do it and females identity. Hi, Apu. I've heard so much about how excellent your job is out there. Out there. Thank you for sharing. And so I cannot necessarily. Apu Adman Agama is a reverend of the Correllian tradition and out there in the Philippines doing amazing work and amazing duties. Strong volunteer service. And I'm grateful and thankful for your service. And I hope that you continue to have that type of service. So the second thing, the question I get, because I'm, being a male witch, and do male witches have to be? I've heard a lot of different ways. What are the sexual orientation? Let me go ahead and say it. What is the sexual orientation of a male witch? And that is anything he wants it to be, just like any women want to be, anything that they want it to be. Or their birth, or whatever way, strength that you want it to be. I mean, there's no question in that. Ultimately, I think the ultimate ideal, in my opinion, of pagan sexuality is called pansexual, which means it is just the idea that we're sexual for the sake of being sexual, and that the idea of procreation is dealt with in a very direct way, meaning say, hey, I want you to have my child, and we want to raise this child together, and possibly even families and tribes sitting together. These extended generational polyamorous families are a great way to go, or individual families of couples that are with other couples that are raising children. All of this is actually that. So in that boldest sense, I think that is really a very important aspect of our community. And so, yeah, that's it. I mean, so there's this idea of it, and then we can kind of live out there. So, and the third question I often get, okay, so why are there so many men in control inside the Wiccan community and the witch community? And I guess I don't understand it, because I think women are willing to let men who are pretty kind of bold and aggressive, and we're kind of spokesmen, and we kind of do this shit, and I don't know, because maybe the patriarchy allowed it to happen. I don't know. But certainly, I'm dedicated to having more female voices in the community. And I think as a community member, that is my responsibility to raise leadership where I find leadership. Okay. And that's important. So it isn't about. So one of the things I'm very fortunate is that I've been capable of cultivating leadership where leadership is strong, where it is necessary, wherever it exists. And I've done it. Hi, Stormy. And how strong the aspect of it is. And I think one of the things people don't understand is that leadership is regenerative. Good leadership regenerates itself. It makes it possible for other people to be leaders to continue this change. I mean, if I'm going to do anything, and I'm going to do anything, let me be honest with you, I'm going to do things that are basically based on the idea of a billion people. I don't care about anything less than that. I mean, in a lot of ways, I love the world. I love how it is and how much they're changing. Right now, I would like to affect a million pagans. I would like to affect a million people right now. And through the Parliament of World Religions coming up in November, and some other aspects, I think that we can. But most importantly, I want to see a blessing to these people. I want to be a blessing onto them. And I want our community to be a blessing. And that's the important aspect. How do we get our community to be a blessing? And so that's a real aspect of it. And so when people ask me, what is the highest and most important part of ourselves? What is it that we're trying to do? Ultimately, it's service to Gaia. It is the service to life itself. As a witch, our primary duty is to serve life. Hi, Don. Reverend Don's here, so I'm really very honored all of you coming out to Ask a Witch and ask your questions. I'm going to be on as long as they have questions. This is the third, this is kind of the question. And so I do think that what are the purpose of being a witch is to become wise. And through these principles of becoming wise, that we get a control of our lives and that we can make big changes. At least for me, I want a big change. Now, trust me, that's not everybody's tasks. There are different people with different duties. I think that there is the idea of heralds, and I think people have all sorts of opportunities. One of the things I disliked about the early pagan community was the idea that you had to be a priest and priestess who was always a clergy member, always a ritual leader, and that's how we defined ourselves. It was a very, very strong aspect of our early community that I found difficult. When Don and I got together for what would become the Great Expansion, Reverend Don, I should be, I'm informal, Discordian nature. Informal. Then we got together and started really working on the expansion. It is because of some principles I understood, combined with some principles he understood, some very strong spiritual aspects that he understood. And then together, these two ideas came together to really begin building a place in our hearts where we can say, we want to live, we want to survive. Remember, one of my main spiritual goals is to overcome my programming as a child, as a Christian, heading towards the apocalypse, who believes this world was evil and had to be destroyed in order for us to be redeemed and go to heaven. It's true. That's how I saw it was taught to the world. And so, okay, so with that, that's kind of where my Ask a Witch questions are. If you have any questions, feel free to ask. Don't see any questions out there. So one more question I often get asked is that why do you dedicate yourself to doing sort of public ritual? Why am I doing all this content? Why am I talking in public? Do people even listen to me? Do they even hear what I'm saying? I don't know if that it is. Sometimes I feel like we're just out in the echo chamber, that we're out and they're just kind of just yelling and screaming into the countryside. And then I meet people and I see people and I go out to events like Convocation with like Reverend Don and I did over the weekend. We met fantastic people. Found out there was a pagan temple that was running 6 days a week. We found out, Ted and Stan, we met them. We saw our good friend Ron, and we saw so many other people that were just kind of really cool. And we met a lot of new people. Michelle Belanger, we saw her, Alan Dugan, got a real education from them. And so, yeah, these are some of the things we do. And this is kind of one of those energies. And I think that it's very important that people get a chance to know you. They get to talk to you. They can be part of your life. We can't just hide in the closets anymore. We just can't just be hidden. We got to be a good, big vocal voice because we're a world religion. I mean, I worked very hard to get us to be recognized as a world religious force. Wiccans and witches are. So what does that mean for us? So in Ask a Witch, it asked me what type of powers can a witch have? Lots of them. They can have the power of voice. They can have the power of sight. They can have the power of hearing. They can hear the power of any of their senses. The taste. All of these senses are enhanced as a witch. You learn to enhance these senses. You can focus your senses, get your brain to work better, deeper, more analysis, and allow you to think. Witch who can taste the ingredients, including poisons. The witch who can hear the forest. You can hear the smallest of sounds. Hear the gentlest of whispers. To see, to observe, to really know what's happening in front of you, not what you think is happening, but see what really is happening. To speak truth, to use voice. Voice is a very powerful tool. It's a very powerful weapon. It's the most powerful tool and weapon we have. To smell, to sense. We love our oils, we love our scents because these are very important parts. Because we know that controls memory. See, that's the thing. The witches understand a lot of deep ideas of how humanity works. And so in this day of age, AI, which I talk about a lot, they can get us to understand how we think. But we, as priesthood, have to learn how to teach us how to feel more and more spiritual, how to bring our spirituality even deeper. Excuse me. And that is what a power of a witch is going to survive, where a lot of other people, other ideology is not going to survive. I mean, are there going to be witches on Mars? I think so. I think there might even be one on the very first mission. Do I think there's going to be witches on the moon? I think yes, of course. Anywhere humanity goes, we're going along. Regardless if you believe in reincarnation, regardless if you believe in the facts, if you believe in the idea of DNA moving forward, if you think that we just come show up again, whatever you believe is the way that we work. Memes, that we have these cultural ideas. There's no way they're ever going to wipe out the witch ever. They've never been able to. They've had inquisitions to throw people on the rack. We have had persecutions where we have overcome. There is no way that the witch isn't part of our genetic code. That Gaia speaks directly to us through, if nothing else, our genetic code, which traces itself back to the very singular beginning moment of life. As a Wiccan Gaius, I recognize that my flesh has been alive always. Think about that. It had to come from another living creature. It had to come from another living creature. It had to come from another living creature, all the way back to the first amoeba. Now, this particular version of me will die, and I've already procreated. I have children, and now I have grandchildren. So a part of me continues on forever. And because that flesh is undying. It came from my living flesh, shared it with a female living flesh, and we created another child based on our living flesh, and so on and so forth. All of life is created from that aspect. Let's be honest. There's nothing else. There's never been anything. So to be protective of life is to be literally proactive to saying, oh my God, everything is alive has been us. So everybody says, what do you mean everything is us? Literally, there was an amoeba one day. There's a little kind of creature that formed, and he basically began to divide, and she began to divide. They began to say, okay, we're going to be more of us. And ever since then, we have existed. We are literally those entities, duplicating themselves, creating themselves, recreating themselves through a series of life forms until our DNA states back all the way back there, is now here, and it goes forward. So to understand that deep belief of how important life is, how interactive life is, how all life works together, because guess what? We're all the same life. And so that it is there. So that is that kind of thing. So you have to understand. Really, I think that's a deeper part. What kind of pagan things did... Okay, so Casey, okay. What kind of pagans do you feel first came in contact with pagan spiritualism? Did you feel a sense of lightness or something like that? So, okay, so I have two pieces to that. So for me, my first time of actually running into pagan spiritualism was my pastor, Raymond Bakke. Reverend Raymond Bakke was a very famous, who became a very famous evangelist. But I was in his first church, and every year he would talk about witchcraft and how it was invading the world and how it was taking over everything and how it was like, oh my God, so terrible, and talking about tarot cards. And he really laid down a foundation that I would become very, very curious about. And so for me, it was with fear and trepidation and thunder, and I had to have faith that God was going to protect me. And it took a little bit of time, but before I was 15 years old, I understood that, oh no, this is just another part of God. I had kind of converted over a little bit, and Donna Cole Schultz is very responsible for that. But my second time, but I tried to go back. I went to the military. I had a whole life after that. And I went to try to go back into Christianity, and they kind of rejected it. And so I would turn around and start coming back to the pagan community. I would start to do tarot card readings. Would meet. I would go through Donna Cole Schultz, Donna Cole Schultz, and everything else. And who was the Gardnerian? And so there was something very powerful for me. That was very strong for me. So I went through and became Gardnerian, and eventually I would get my Gardnerian third degree. In the process, I'd become a first degree and second degree of Correllianism, and then third degree I would be pretty quickly. And so these are the types of things I felt. And when I did those are all about rightness. Probably the last thing I did that was very right is when I kind of retired from the Correllian tradition to start Nature's of Recyclers, or my biological business. I'm a biological alchemist now. I really am turning trash into worms, into life, into creating more life, like literally tons of life, and microbes and soil. This is something that's very important to me, soil, clean soil. And so for me as a witch, I want to manifest literally my spirituality in a physical way. And so I'm literally taking trash, or what people feel is garbage, which they feel like is leftover, all the parts that we have left over. And just like we have leftover spiritual parts, I think that's something that you see, and then we apply something, in my case, earthworms and microbes, but also in my spirituality, it's kind of like truths and ideologies and memes and rituals, all sorts of things kind of just work through that. So to what I think is trash, kind of like, oh, I'm so miserable because I've had a bad moment, or I don't know how to think about myself in a good way, or I'm just broke all the time. And I understand these feelings, and we all have them. So I kind of filter them through to kind of build up the idea of like, okay, how can I change it? How can I fix it? How can I do better? And then I like, is it money for me? So I've always wanted to do better and affect more. And so my spirituality has allowed me to go down these very positive visualizations. It taught me very strong exercises. And it teaches me that I believe the universe answers to us. And so how do I know I feel there's a rightness to it? When my life flows, when it feels it. I can feel it. It's like my life flows along. And on this full moon, I think that I've come to a very strong change over the last couple of months that I've engaged in, really big changes. And I think that they've been some amazing changes. And ASCA, which is one of those changes, I'm hoping that more people do this. I'm really begging you, if you've ever been out and want to be able share your story with us, ASCA, which is a great platform because we got, like literally thousands of people on our Facebook pages, and our Face Live book is a great way to do so. And earlier this week, I was on John Anastasia's Reclaiming Your Sacred Path, which I think is a great name. So it's reclaiming, and hopefully somebody will put a link in the comments to the radio show that we did. And I really was a really cool show. And it'll talk a lot about how I feel it inside the idea of witch and paganism. And so that it is that aspect of it. And I'm really now very centered on this idea of creating content. So Ask a Witch is really about centering around contact. Hi, Molly. Hi, John. So that it is. So yes, Reclaiming the Sacred, please put the link in. That was a really great show. He's done a number of great shows. And we talked about technology, but I really do think it's important that we create. Tonight, I did earlier tonight on the transmission. I talked about today about the Paladin Order and things of that nature. Um, so that it is there. So we're really engaging our story. So this is a very important aspect of it. So we're engaging our story now. And I think that we fought so hard in the 90s and the 2000s to get our news story told, to get our told in the mainstream news. And when the mainstream news shattered, I mean, really shattered, and it turned into the social media world, we kind of gave up on it. We didn't see media as important. And now I think that we were going around. So yeah, let's put up the link if you want to see our commentary. If you're seeing this later, look at our commentary. We have a lot of great people listening in. This is Ask a Witch, and I can keep watching on the Facebook Live Witch School, The Witch School, Facebook.com, The Witch School. We're going to do more Facebook Lives. Plus, we have a YouTube channel, Magic TV. We do radios on Pagans Tonight. We have a lot of allied friends who do things that are posting out there. We have the Daily Spell. We have a lot of resources for you available, and of course, Witch School, which you can enter free of charge, and you can even get all sorts of free classes you can learn on, including the living of the Wiccan life. We really do want to help people kind of educate. And you say, and I think one of the things my early mottos was, "So you want to be a witch?" Is always the question. Oh yes, of course, and I help. Yes, oh good. So people are doing a really good job with this. I'm really very proud of people. And so the next up, I think, Phoenix is coming up on March 6th. He's going to do this. Phoenix Williams, I think, is a very strong voice. Liz is going to come back on it. And so we have a lot of resources and anything else. So I'm going to ask for last questions right now, if there's any last questions. If not, I'm going to make a kind of a closing statement here. I'll give it a minute. So I don't even know what else to say. Listen to Pagans Tonight. You got a chance there. I think Reclaiming the Sacred Spirit, Sacred Path, I think is a great series. It's got 11 episodes. I've been listening to them. They're really, really good. Okay, so I'm reading. So, question from a person in the group is Liz. Ed, as a witch, what's your, I guess, philosophy is the right word, on higher powers in the world? And what practices do you do exactly? Okay. Um, First and foremost, I think my identity, especially now, I'm Ed the Pagan, which means I became very much realizing that I'd be sometimes the only pagan somebody will ever meet in their life. I think that's less true today than when I started that. I was named by an outside force. So my philosophy has always been that life persists. Life is more important than anything else. Life will continue to find a way, and you have to just simply ask the universe what you want. The universe answers to our sentient actions. I believe the universe is sentient. God is a verb. And so my philosophy as a witch is that basically my will is my way, and my way is where my attention flows. My magic goes where my attention flows. Very directly. This is the simplest philosophy I have. And when I started witch school a long time ago, it was learn anything, anywhere, anytime. I believe it is simply our will that expresses itself, and what keeps us from anything. We all have the same 1,440 minutes in a day. We have the same 168 hours a week. There's no difference between me and the President of the United States and the President of France and Beyonce is a singer or Jay-Z in this one aspect. I literally have the same amount of time as they do. So we have 1,440 minutes in a day. How we use them, how we do it is very important. And as a witch, I believe our will and our way is basically where we act. But I think we do get lost is that we've gotten caught in the illusion of the world. That we've gotten caught in thinking that the world is separate of us. That spirit is something that we're not our bodies, that we're something that gets squirted into our bodies and keep kind of going out. And I don't see it that way. I see that our bodies are extremely important. They're the only expression as a witch that we have. We can talk about our spiritual inner life and the spiritual life that we're having together. And with cyberspace and some of the attachments, you'll find out I think we're going to get much farther along. But ultimately, at the end of the day, our main interaction is going to continue for the entirety of our life in the form of our bodies interacting with each other. Audio. We're going to talk to each other. Oral. We're going back to oral society. The smell of each other, the sight of each other, the hearing of each other, the kind of conceptual idea of each other, the taste of each other. Yes, we will lick each other from time to time. And so that it is. So my central practice every day is, what do I pay attention to? What is it I'm aware of? What am I grateful for? What am I willing to work for? And then my magical philosophy is, there is no limits to the magic that I can create. And I will be honestly, I feel like I'm one of the greater magicians. I construct very large magical spells over long periods of time. And I just went through a group of people, just a really kind of interesting 15-month ritual plus with a 5-month ritual that allowed a international, which is an emerging international company to emerge out of the internet and out of the idea of Witch and Famous Agency is going to be kind of forming out of that. The Daily Spell becoming over the last 15 months into kind of independent media service. So these are the kind of things of the architecture that I do. I believe that I do large crystal web, so I love doing large scale spells. I love that. I just adore it. So that's my philosophy. That you can do anything that you please to by the number of actions you commit yourself to. You have 1,440 hours in a day, so how many actions can you commit to it? How much balance can you bring into your life to allow this energy to flow? And what is it that you're going to want to do? And my spells are really about connecting pagans and magic and kind of bringing this intuitive age. And I think I've done it right because as the AIs are emerging, sort of the AI world is emerging. I think I've got a lot of witches who understand this very intuitively, that our voice, our magic, is going to control this new world. I truly believe that our magic is going to control cyberspace in a very big way. So, hope that answers that. Oh wow, that's my laptop over there. So one last any last questions? If not, let me give you so I'm going to give you my last thoughts on it. So thank you for joining me for Ask a Witch. This is a manifestation I hope will continue to grow. I hope you'll join us, and if you do, editor at thedailyspell.com is a great way to respond. Also, you can respond out to out into the world and where we're at. I want you to join me. I want to find out about all the witches in the world. I want you to come out and join me. We need more witches. We need to ask more questions. And so this is your chance to have a forum. I want you to have a great forum right now. And so we're going to have some more people come up. I hope you enjoyed this. This is Ask a Witch. Remember, if you have a question, just ask. Blessed be and happy full moon. Hurrah! Energy. And now on to the next blue moon. What do you do this? So let me give you the last piece. Let me give you a really special treat if you're still listening. Tonight, light your candle. This is the blue next to the next blue moon. Absolutely go ahead and manifest. What you manifest tonight from blue moon to blue moon, skipping through the new moon, will change. What do I mean by that? What habit are you willing to let go of? Write that down. On the other page, what habit do you want to get into? And look at it every day for 15 days. Burn it on the new moon. Find out. And then by the next full moon, you should see that habit manifesting. Those two should be exchanging spaces. Quick little spell, a quick little energy trick that'll help you change the polarity of an energy. And there you go.